Hi, I'm Mike, and I'd like to show you how to put a gloss on a sanded board with the Solarez UV resin. Most of you guys would probably never use this on a shortboard, because most shortboards just you sand them and you surf them. But if you got a longboard you're restoring, or you made a brand new longboard, or maybe you made a wooden table and you put a resin coat, you're making a resin table. And I've even heard of some guys putting a coat of this stuff on their acoustic guitars. So it has something to do with affecting the tone. But anyway, as far as the surfboards go, after your board's glassed and sanded, take it down, sand it down to at least about at minimum 100 grit, but 120 is better. So it's really super smooth, because this is just a real thin resin coat. When you're dealing with a glass, you're glassing a surfboard, a good idea is to take the tape and then twist it around and then just put it like that. You put the sticky side out. This will grab the board and keep it from sliding on you. You want the racks to be pretty much level, because it is a liquid. Make sure when you tape it off, tape it at the high point of the rail, because when you come back to polish it, you're going to have a seam from after you do the top and do the bottom. You're going to have a seam, and that'll come in later. It'll make it easier to polish the board. This is one of those cactus boards. It'll look really nice once the gloss goes on it. Brings out the piece of the wood. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go around and press this down, and then go around again and just stretch it out a little bit, just so it doesn't wrap around and cling to the bottom of the board. Keep you getting drips on one side or the other. Usually when you gloss in a board, you'd want a nice dust-free room, but I don't really have that. This is just a converted carport with some tarps to keep out the UV rays, because this stuff doesn't really need catalyst. I mean, you can put a little catalyst in the resin as like a safeguard, but all you really need is the UV light. Now, some professionals even have built boxes where they can put the board in a UV box, close the lid, flick on the switch, and they got UV lights, and then it cooks the board. The same as putting it in the sun, but we're just going to use the sun. Okay, the next part really is just make sure the board's really clean. Make sure I can get it as clean as I can, considering what I'm working with here. Make sure you have a nice brush that doesn't hold a lot of resin. This is just a cheap brush, but it works pretty good. Methyl ethyl ketone. It's regular surfboard resin catalyst, just a whisper. Hardly any at all. What you want to do is, after you pour the resin on and you're going to plow it out to the sides, then do a little cross brushing just to even out all the resin, then come back and do a final coat, and you sort of go with the flow of the curves of the board, but take the resin off from the center. So when you do the first center swipe, you kind of clean your brush a little and come back, because you want less resin in the center than you do on the rails, so you don't get that over waterfall effect where you get lumps. Now put this in here out of the sun and clean the brush. And this should take, let's see, right now it's about 10 minutes to 12. It shouldn't even go off at least until 12:30. The longer it sets, the smoother it'll get, and it'll all flow together. And if you can kind of see it now, if you can get to the glare, you can see the the brush strokes. And if you let it set for a while, it'll all melt together and the brush strokes will disappear. The longer it sets, the better, but then also the longer it sets, the more it's going to trap dust or debris in the air. That's the beauty of this stuff. We don't really have to worry about it. I mean, that little bit of catalyst I added isn't going to change much, except when I expose it to the sunlight. Got my tweezers handy, but I don't think I'm going to need them. I've done these before where the bugs land in them and a fly will land in it and leave a little trail. You can see his little footprints. I used to think the scarecrow sang it. He goes, with the thoughts I'd be thinking, but that's not how it goes in the movie. Judy sings to him, with the thoughts you'd be thinking, you could be another Lincoln if you only had a brain. What do you think? Should we shoot the works? Yeah, let's wait just a little bit longer. It's been a little over half an hour, and it's pretty smooth. So I'm going to raise the tarp. Then I'm going to pick the board up, and I'm just going to flash it in the sun just for an instant. And then I'm going to bring it back into the shade. And the reason to do that is to get the whatever the chemical is that's in the resin that they make it go off. It gets it started, but it doesn't happen all at once because I don't want it to get too hot. Now let it cool off. And then I'm going to do it a second time, a little longer. Then I'm going to bring it back in, and then I'm going to pull the tape. By then, I'll show you the resin will have started to go off. There we go. See, it started to go off. And then the third time I take it out, I'm just going to sit it on the sawhorses and let it sit. And it takes about 3 minutes, 2 minutes, and then it's as hard as it's ever going to be. Well, I've got a little bit of the glossing resin left, and if I hadn't added that little bit of catalyst to it, I could just pour it back into the container and keep it, and it would just stay until I needed it again. But I did add a little bit of catalyst, so I can't really save it, because eventually it will go off. But I got an old mailbox over here. I pour the excess on, and you can see it go from the liquid to the solid pretty quick. Now that your board's glossed, you're going to probably want to polish it. And let me show you a few tips on that. If you don't want to polish the top or the bottom, you're at least going to have to do the rails where the seam is. But you want to take this down. This is where the top and the bottom meet. There's that seam we talked about when we were doing the gloss on it. Take this down. The best way is to get a used single-edge razor blade. I'll just do a little patch here to show you, and just lightly scratch it. I just got to start working here, and that's it. It just takes time. Stop before you go too far, because you're still going to fine sand it with the wet and dry. The rails are piled down, scratched down to where they're smooth. I'm going to dry sand the deck first, and then come back and wet and dry the rails. That way I don't have to worry about the board being wet. Tacky, pressure sensitive adhesive. There, that should do it. Where's my mark? There. Okay, what we're really doing is just slightly roughing up the surface of this to take that little waxy finish off of it, and just to get those little bumps out. And then we'll come back with the compound. Well, after we dry sand it, then we'll wet and dry the rails, and then we come back with the compound, and then the Blu Shel is shining up. There. Now that the board's been dry sanded and the rails are scraped, I'm going to take a piece of 360. You could use 400, not much difference, and then a piece of 600, and I'm going to wet and dry the rails. So first thing I'm going to do is get the rails wet. You can feel it when you do it. That just smooths it right out. That was the 360 or the 400, whatever you have, and then this is the 600, and this is the super fine stuff. If you really want a super shiny job, you can wet and dry the bottom with the 600, but it really isn't necessary with that compound. The compound pretty much does that for you. Okay, what I have here is this is a terry cloth rag, and one is for applying the polish, which will be last, and the first one is for applying the compound. Just rub it in, and then you come back and you buff it. So this particular Makita, it varies from 1500. You can dial it in. There's a dial here. It goes all the way up to 2800 RPMs. And 2800 RPMs is an ideal polishing speed. If you go any faster than that, the buffer pad has a tendency to burn the fiberglass. It heats up too much. This pad's kind of old and it's got some stuff on it. I'm just going to clean it up a little with a nail. I don't know if you can see it. It just kind of fluffs up the pad and gets that excess. And just apply the compound. And then you'll come back and just kind of rub it in, but not too severely. Also, you go with the grit of the scratches that you just put in, of the sandpaper. Now this stuff pretty much will polish it to a nice shine just by itself, but then when you come back with the real polish, the Blu Shel, it really shines up. You kind of want to rub it in. Now for the Blu Shel. This is the stuff that really makes it happen. But the same thing as the compound, same way to apply it. Just back and forth, and then come back with the polishing pad and sort of rub it in, and then hit the RPMs and put the shine on it. Okay, same thing. The rails are done. Now I'm going to compound the deck, but I found out it's a good idea, rather than try and do the whole board at once, do it in patches. Do a patch here, and then move over and kind of overlap, and it's much simpler, and the compound doesn't dry out on you. This is when the polishing pad really starts to gum up, and you got to keep cleaning it with the nail. I think you can kind of see how if you had a higher RPM sander polisher, it would burn the fiberglass. It would create too much heat in the fiberglass. Especially on the foam boards. When you polish the foam boards, you can actually see the fiberglass weave raise up. Okay, now clean the pad again, and we're ready for the Blu Shel. Okay, here's the final phase. And you do this the same way. It's easier to do it in patches and then come back and when you're all done and really go over it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is clean the pad one more time and then go over the whole top just to really buff it up. And there you have it, with the Solarez UV resin. Gloss and polish. Pretty good. Came out pretty good. You say so myself. Okay. Thanks for your time.